Welcome to a new edition of Fourth and Pain, the only football and pro wrestling show to be hosted by an NFL player and a weight loss champion. With me, as always, Redskins defensive end Adam Carriker.
Do you know who we are? Do you know who we are?
Fourth and Pain, Adam. Just
Yes, that is correct. We are fourth and pain.
Yeah,
I'm just channeling my inner Bully Ray, that's all.
Yeah, we're just off to a rousing start there. All right, Bully Ray, Adam Carriker there, weight loss champion, former wrestling announcer Chuck Carroll here. Welcome to the show. Be sure to give it a follow on Twitter at Fourth and Pain, where we tweet out new content each and every weekday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Shows such as this. Adam, we're going to talk about the dismissal of Lane Kiffin here in a few minutes, but we start, of course, right here in Washington, where this week the Redskins have a bye, but they do so with a win under their belts. They go out to Oakland. They beat the Raiders after falling behind 14-0 early. Then the defense pitches you shutout from then on. Redskins get their first win of the season, 24-14. And now you come back east, the veterans are saying, hey, it's just one win. I like that mentality, but how big of this really is it for the Redskins to have that win headed into the bye week? Compare for me 1-3 versus 0-4, Adam.
I understand completely what they're saying. This is the NFL. It is not a sprint. This is a marathon. This is a very long season. You can't get too low. You can't get too high. It doesn't matter if you're winning. It doesn't matter if you're losing. You got to be even keel all the way because this is too long, it's too enduring to get too high and too low. Now, with that in mind, I'm going to say this. It is our first victory of the year. Think about if we were 0-4 at this time. Think about how much better 1-3 sounds versus 0-4. To me, you celebrate the victory. You've earned the victory. It just so happens you got a bye week, so you get to enjoy it for another week before you have to get ready for them Dallas Cowboys. I think there's absolutely nothing wrong with enjoying this because 1-3 is so much better than 0-4. And then when that bye week is over and you get ready for them Cowboys, you forget about what happened the first 4 weeks, the first 3 losses and the first win. It's like it never happened. The season starts over and you move forward at that point. Right now, I don't care. People say, oh, it's the Raiders. Oh, they're so terrible. Well, first of all, they're an NFL team. It's a road win. It's all the way across the country, which is not easy to do. It's not like if you beat Oakland or any of these other teams that people keep talking bad about every week, they don't count on your record. It still counts as a win. Enjoy it, celebrate it. Don't get too high, don't get too low. When the bye week's over, move forward.
Yeah, well, how important was that win, really? Well, let's look at it from a statistical standpoint. 0-3 last week, you had less than a 3% chance of making the playoffs. Well, you know what? At 1-3, those chances have improved to nearly 14% of making the postseason. Conversely, here's where the dagger lies. If the Redskins would have come home with that loss from Oakland, their chances of making the playoffs would drop to 1.3%. That is the basement of all Hail Mary chances to get into the postseason. Literally 1 in 100 shots. So that is a huge win for Washington, in my opinion. And now, of course, Adam, we're talking about the bye week here on Fourth and Pain. It falls a little bit early this season. Are you a proponent of having it earlier in the year, or is this something that you think that the guys need later in the season when you're a little bit more banged up? We'll ask the same question a little bit later on when we're joined by Ryan Kerrigan.
I think guys prefer it later in the year. You want to be more games under your belt, and then when you're banged up, you get time to rest. But, I mean, it doesn't matter what I'm a proponent of. It is what it is. It lands when it lands.
All right, now here's the big one, the one that I've been waiting all week to ask you. Defensive resurgence. You get Rob Jackson back. You get Jarvis Jenkins back after the bye week. The Redskins defense, they go out to Oakland. They notch, I believe 7 sacks? 7 sacks. 3 guys had a pair. And Darryl Tapp got his first as the Redskin. And essentially, the defense only gives up 7 points because one of Oakland's touchdowns came on that blocked punt. So you only allow 1 touchdown, the strongest performance by far all season. What are you expecting out of this unit moving forward for the remainder of the season?
Well, I thought the team and the defense in the Lions game gave us a shot to win. I think in this last game, I mean, what more do you want out of the defense? You give up 7 points on defense. You score 7 points on defense, and you get 7 sacks. You had as many sacks and as many points scored on defense as you gave up defensively. 3 defensive touchdowns so far this year. What I'm expecting forward is we're going to get guys such as Jarvis Jenkins, and we're going to get Rob Jackson back. And that D-line and that pass rush has been doing well. We're second in the entire NFL in sacks right now. And then you add 2 pass rushers, you add more depth so guys can be fresher, you can get more rotation. That's only going to improve that front 7, the pass rush, and the defense as a whole.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that. And of course, you're entering on the defensive side of things. You're entering that bye week in this critical showdown in Dallas against the Cowboys, which could be for the NFC East lead, by the way. You're entering that relatively healthy on the defensive side of the ball. You got 3/4 of the season left to play, but you're in pretty good shape, 1 game out of the lead of the division, despite the fact that you're at 1-3. I'm always going to be an optimist in life, not just about football. So I got to say things are definitely looking up for the Redskins. I'm not ready, Adam. You may not like this, but I'm definitely not ready to say that the Redskins are playoff bound. Certainly not going to say that they're Super Bowl contenders, but they took a huge first step out in Oakland and should be commended for that.
Well, we're almost healthy. If only we could get all of our defensive ends healthy. But I think that little self-shot.
There is that, yeah.
I'm okay with that. But as crazy as the season has been so far, we're only 1 game out of first place. People forget it wasn't that long ago a 7-9 Seattle Seahawks team won the NFC West. Now, I'm not saying we're going to go 7-9 or anything like that. What I'm saying is we're right there. Who knows what happens with the Broncos and Cowboys this weekend? We could be playing for first, and it doesn't really matter what your record is overall compared to the NFL. It matters what it is compared to the rest of your division. We're going to have a chance to win this division. And as the season goes along, those rookies in the back end are going to get more and more experience. Merriweather, D. Hall, Josh Wilson, guys who haven't had chance to really play together are going to get more and more continuity. And then Robert's just going to get better and better as his knee gets more and more time to just get acclimated to all this. It doesn't matter what the record is. Those Seahawks won their first playoff game against the defending Super Bowl champion Saints. You never know what can happen. 3-6 to the playoffs last year. Hey, it's a marathon, folks.
All you have to do is get in. You're listening to Fourth and Pain with Redskins defensive end Adam Carriker, me, former wrestling announcer and weight loss champion Chuck Carroll. Adam, let's talk a little bit about league-wide news. What, pray tell, is the topic du jour?
I want to get your opinion on this. Pete Carroll blames the NCAA sanctions on Lane Kiffin's dismissal at USC, not poor coaching. This is his quote. The whole NCAA thing, I just think, is terribly out of balance. They just had to try to survive all of that. It's awful that it was like that, but it didn't end well, and it's unfortunate for Kiff. He's a tremendous worker, and all of that just didn't work out for him, end quote. Now, remember, Kiffin was an assistant under Carroll at USC for 01 to 06. But what are your thoughts on this, Chuck?
Yeah, well, Kiffin was an assistant under Carroll out there at USC, but he also inherited Pete Carroll's mess at USC. And so you can talk about Lane Kiffin's poor track record. You can talk about his dismissal with the Oakland Raiders. You can talk about how he left Tennessee high and dry, but he entered the program at USC under high scrutiny. Pete Carroll just got popped for all of those violations, so he inherited spoiled goods, damaged goods. It was going to be hard for him to come in, Lane Kiffin or anybody else, and really turn that program around.
Was it more his coaching, or was it the NCAA sanctions, or it sounds like you're kind of pointing the finger at Pete Carroll a little bit? What are you thinking here?
It's definitely going to be a mix of all. His coaching didn't help, though. I mean, take a look at, Ohio State. I mean, take a look at Penn State. Those were 2 programs last season with heavy sanctions against them, and they still turned out a hell of a good season. Ohio State went freaking undefeated. It'll never be talked about because they weren't BCS eligible, but they were undefeated. And then
Urban Meyer still hasn't lost yet as an Ohio State coach.
Exactly. So Lane Kiffin, you can talk about, I didn't have this opportunity, I didn't have that opportunity. Bull, you have the same opportunity as everybody else, but you did inherit damaged goods at USC. You still could have coached the program better. I'm putting the blame 50% on Pete Carroll. I'm putting the blame 50% on Lane Kiffin, and that's the bottom line.
So you do not blame the NCAA sanctions. It's on the 2 coaches.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay,
The
that's
NCAA
fair.
is just the arbiter, man. We are fresh out of time on this segment. Don't go anywhere. More Fourth and Pain right around the corner.
Adam Carriker, Redskins defensive end, number 94, former lifter of the year, and the largest arms on the defensive line, here with your pumping iron tip of the week. The most overlooked lift for a defensive lineman is flies. What do we do when we're rushing the passer? We're club ripping, club swimming. You're just a good old-fashioned hump. Well, what thing in the weight room mimics that the most? It's flies. And incline flies are equally as important. Work on that hump, work on that club rip, club swim, and you will get more sacks. Remember, football is 80% mental and 40% physical. Bruce Smith, the Little Giants. You're welcome.